7 psychological signs you both have feelings, but no one admits it. Psychology tricks. Love is not something you hunt down. Love is something you recognize when it's already standing in front of you. And sometimes, the clearest proof isn't a confession, it's the tension. When two people secretly want each other, the room changes before anyone says a word. It feels magnetic, a little dangerous, almost like you're both pretending you don't notice what your nervous system already knows. You can be mid conversation, perfectly normal, yet your eyes keep drifting back, your voice shifts, your body leans in without permission. That's the strange part. The mind tries to keep control, but the body tells the truth first. The real signal isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the pause that lasts a second too long. It's the look that holds just a beat longer than it should. It's how you both suddenly become more aware of your hands, your posture, your tone, like you're performing calm while your heartbeat refuses to cooperate. And if you've ever asked yourself, is it just me? Watch what happens when you're about to leave. When someone else gets your attention, when there's a chance to get closer, but neither of you takes it. Feelings that aren't admitted still leak out in patterns. They show up as accidents, as perfectly timed moments, as distance that doesn't feel like distance at all. Welcome to Stoicism Win, where we don't chase fantasies, we read reality. If you're new here, subscribe, turn on notifications, and step into a deeper understanding of attraction, desire, and the things people feel, but rarely say out loud. 1. The energy shift and physical reaction. Now listen carefully, because the first undeniable sign that you both have feelings, but no one admits it isn't spoken out loud. It's felt in the air. It's the energy shift that happens before a single word is exchanged. The subtle but powerful change in your body the moment they walk into the room, even if you haven't seen them yet. Somehow your system registers their presence before your eyes confirm it, and your heartbeat picks up just slightly, not enough to cause alarm, but enough to wake you up. You straighten your back, adjust your shirt, check your tone, act as if you were completely composed, but your mind was already rehearsing what to say. And here's the psychological truth most men overlook. When attraction is mutual, the body anticipates connection before the brain gives permission. That is how human wiring works. This is one of those psychology tricks nature has been using long before we had a name for it. You feel more alert, a little nervous, a little energized, like someone turned the lights on inside you. And don't fool yourself into thinking it's one-sided, because if she feels something too, her body reacts in similar ways. Watch closely. Does she suddenly become more self-aware around you? Does she fix her hair, smooth her clothes, adjust her posture, shift her voice slightly? Do her eyes brighten just a touch when you speak? These are not random gestures. This is female psychology at play, subtle, instinctive, almost automatic. And you must learn to notice without overreacting. Don't rush to label it. Don't smother it with analysis. Be calm. Be observant. Mutual attraction often hides behind small behaviors that only reveal themselves in motion. And one of the clearest signs is that charged eye contact, that moment when your eyes meet and neither of you looks away quickly enough. Not long enough to cause a scene, but long enough that it feels like time hesitated, like something unspoken just passed between you. If it were meaningless, it would feel flat. But it doesn't. It feels alive, like you just touched without touching, like the air thickened for a second and both of you felt it. This is not fantasy. This is biology mixed with emotion, one of the oldest psychology tricks in the book. And the more you understand it, the more clearly you'll see that learning how to fall in love often begins long before anyone says the word love. Another sign hides in the way conversation flows. When feelings are mutual but unspoken, the dialogue becomes layered, playful but cautious, curious but restrained. You both ask questions that go slightly deeper than necessary. You remember small details about each other. You reference past conversations with precision, not because you are trying to impress, but because you are paying attention. And attention is currency in attraction. Don't underestimate that. Be aware that when someone recalls the exact story you told weeks ago, that is investment. And investment is rarely accidental. Then there's the teasing, the gentle push and pull, the playful contradiction, the way she might challenge you just enough to keep the tension alive. You respond in kind, not aggressively, but confidently. This stance is not random. It's another one of those psychology tricks rooted in tension and release. And if you study female psychology, you'll notice that emotional stimulation often matters more than surface level compliments. What keeps two people magnetized is not constant agreement, it's the spark of contrast, the subtle friction that creates heat. You must also notice the unnecessary proximity, the way she finds reasons to be near you, to sit a little closer than required, to linger after a conversation ends, to brush hands in passing and not apologize too quickly. And if you do the same without thinking, that is your subconscious leaning in. Don't dismiss these moments as coincidence. Be honest with yourself. Proximity is rarely accidental when feelings are involved. Another quiet sign is the way both of you become slightly guarded around others, but relaxed when alone together, as if the outside world fades and the conversation deepens naturally. That shift in tone, that softness in voice, that willingness to share something personal, that is intimacy testing the waters. And if both of you retreat slightly when someone interrupts, that says more than any confession ever could. Then there's the mirroring, one of the most fascinating psychology tricks of all, where you unconsciously copy each other's gestures, posture, pace of speech, even facial expressions. Humans bond by synchronizing. And when synchronization happens naturally, it often signals emotional alignment. Watch for it. If she leans in and you lean in, if she slows her voice and you do the same, if your laughter overlaps perfectly, that rhythm is not forced. It's connection. You must also pay attention to jealousy, not dramatic jealousy, but the subtle flicker, the slight pause when another person gets your attention, the quick question asked too casually, the change in expression that vanishes almost instantly. When feelings are unspoken, protection instincts still activate quietly. And this is where understanding female psychology becomes powerful, not to manipulate, but to recognize. Don't provoke it. Don't play games. Be steady. Attraction grows best in emotional safety. Finally, notice the hesitation, the way both of you stop just short of crossing the line, the unfinished sentences, the almost confessions, the lingering goodbye, the way neither of you wants to be the first to make it obvious. That tension is not confusion. It's caution mixed with desire. Learning how to fall in love often requires someone to step beyond that hesitation with calm confidence. Don't force the moment, but don't ignore it either. Be courageous in small ways. Hold the eye contact half a second longer. Speak with clarity instead of hiding behind humor. Mutual feelings rarely disappear on their own. They either deepen or fade based on action. Understand this clearly. When energy shifts, when bodies react, when eyes linger, when conversation flows with hidden layers, when proximity increases without reason, when mirroring happens naturally, when subtle jealousy appears, and when hesitation fills the space between you, you are not imagining things. You are witnessing human connection unfolding in real time. These are not random accidents. They are timeless psychology tricks woven into our design. Be aware. Be grounded. Don't overanalyze every gesture, but don't ignore consistent patterns either. The difference between a missed opportunity and a meaningful relationship often comes down to whether you had the courage to acknowledge what was already there. And if you truly want to understand female psychology and master how to fall in love with wisdom rather than impulse, you must learn to read energy before you chase words, because sometimes the loudest confession is the silence charged with feeling. And the strongest connection is the one both of you are trying very hard not to admit. 2. Scanning, eye contact, and mental replay. Here's where psychology gets interesting and, yes, a little intense. When two people genuinely like each other, their minds begin scanning. Quietly, carefully, like a thief studying a locked safe. Not to steal, but to understand, to decode, to measure risk and possibility at the same time. You notice their hands, their voice, the rhythm of their laughter, the curve of their smile. You observe how they sit, how they pause, how they react when someone else speaks. And don't flatter yourself, they're studying you too. Not obviously, not recklessly, but consistently. This is one of those subtle psychology tricks human beings have practiced for centuries without realizing it. Attraction turns the brain into a detective. You don't stare. They don't stare. But both of you look again. And again. Like two magnets pretending they aren't being pulled. That is not coincidence. That is tension disguised as composure. Be honest with yourself. When you find your eyes drifting back to the same person in a room full of options, something is happening beneath the surface. And when you catch them doing the same, even if they quickly look away, that is information. Don't ignore patterns. The observant. A high-value man does not panic at attraction. He reads it. He understands that masculine energy is calm under pressure, even romantic pressure. The scanning is mutual. It is silent communication. It says, I see you. It asks, do you see me too? Sometimes the connection feels almost unsettling. Not dangerous, just powerful. You don't fully understand why you feel drawn to them. There is no dramatic event. No obvious reason. You just do. That quiet pull can surprise you, especially if you're a man who prides himself on logic. But don't confuse mystery with madness. Chemistry does not always arrive with an explanation. This is another one of those psychology tricks the mind plays when emotion and curiosity meet. And here is the key. If the feeling were one-sided, it would fade quickly. When it lingers, when it grows stronger instead of weaker, there is usually reciprocity in the air. You replay conversations. That's the next sign. Moments that should have been ordinary suddenly feel significant. A casual joke echoes in your mind later that night. A simple compliment sounds richer when you think about the tone she used. You analyze pauses. You revisit eye contact. You ask yourself, did she mean something by that? And here's the truth, she is likely doing the same. Mutual attraction turns small moments into mental replays. It adds weight to simple exchanges. That is not overthinking. That is emotional investment beginning to form. Don't dismiss it too quickly. Be aware of where your attention keeps returning. This is the undeniable sign. A person can hide their words, control their behavior, and mask their intentions, but attraction leaks through the body. It shows in the eyes first. Eyes soften. Pupils expand slightly. Glances linger half a second longer than necessary. It shows in the voice. Tone becomes warmer, slower, more intentional. Even silence changes. When they stand next to you, silence doesn't feel empty. It feels loud, charged, like something is waiting to be acknowledged. If there were nothing there, silence would be neutral. But it isn't. It feels alive. Understand this clearly. When silence becomes noticeable, connection is already forming. When two people can stand near each other and feel the air shift, words become optional. That is not fantasy. That is human wiring. And if you are a high-value man, you must learn to trust calm observation over impulsive reaction. Don't rush to confess. Don't retreat in fear either. Be steady. Masculine energy is grounded. It does not chase every spark, but it also does not pretend sparks don't exist. Another layer of scanning appears in body language synchronization. You lean back, she leans back. You smile, she mirrors it. You lower your voice, she matches the tone. These micro-adjustments are rarely deliberate. They're instinctive alignment. One of the oldest psychology tricks in social bonding is mirroring. It signals comfort. It signals rapport. It signals we're on the same wavelength. And when that alignment happens repeatedly, not once but consistently, that is not random behavior. That is mutual awareness growing quietly. Notice also the emotional restraint. Both of you act normal, polite, controlled. Yet there is an undercurrent. You both avoid saying too much. You both test the waters lightly. Why? Because attraction carries risk. Especially for men between 35 and 70 who have lived enough life to know that vulnerability is not casual. But be careful. Don't let fear disguise itself as wisdom. Sometimes caution protects you. Sometimes it delays something meaningful. That is why awareness matters. If you are trying to attract women with confidence and clarity, you must understand this dynamic deeply. Attraction is rarely announced. It is signaled. It is hinted at. It leaks through micro-behaviors. A high-value man recognizes signals without becoming arrogant about them. He does not assume interest from thin air. But when signs repeat, when scanning happens both ways, when eye contact lingers, when mental replay refuses to fade, when silence feels charged, he does not dismiss reality either. And here's something crucial. The pull you feel is often mirrored by her uncertainty. She may be thinking, is he interested, while you are thinking the same about her. That tension creates hesitation. But hesitation does not cancel connection. It often confirms it. Two people feeling nothing do not overanalyze each other. They do not replay tone and posture. They do not feel electricity in quiet spaces. So if this sounds familiar, pause before you label it as imagination. Be objective. Patterns reveal truth. If you notice scanning, if you notice repeated glances, if conversations echo later in your mind, if silence feels heavier than it should, if your body reacts before your logic does, and if her behavior mirrors that same rhythm, then maybe your story is not a one-sided fantasy. Maybe it's mutual. Don't ignore it. Don't dramatize it either. Be grounded. Be patient. Masculine energy thrives in calm confidence. If there is something real, it will strengthen with consistency. And if it fades, you lose nothing by having observed wisely. But never underestimate this truth. Attraction may hide behind controlled words, but it always reveals itself in the body. And when two people are quietly scanning, replaying, and feeling the same shift in the air, chances are the connection is not imagined. It is shared. And if you've ever felt that silent pull, that electric pause when your eyes meet and neither of you looks away first, then you already know this isn't random. Don't ignore it. Don't overthink it. Recognize it. If this hit home, drop this in the comments right now. I trust what I feel. Like the video. Subscribe for more sharp psychological insights. And remember, when the eyes keep returning, it's not coincidence. It's connection. 3. Deep conversations and emotional vulnerability. There is a psychological shift that happens when two people have feelings, but neither one admits it, and if you are a man between 35 and 70, you have likely experienced it more than once, even if you pretended not to notice. Conversations change. That is the first sign. They stop being ordinary exchanges of information and start becoming charged moments of connection. A simple, "How was your day?" carries weight. The words are basic, but the tone is not. The energy is not. The pauses are not. You both lean in, not physically at first, but emotionally. Voices soften. Responses slow down. The conversation stretches. What should have been a 5-minute check-in turns into an hour of depth. As Maya Angelou once said, people will never forget how you made them feel. That is what is happening here. You are not exchanging facts. You are exchanging emotional impact. And that is never accidental. Most people operate on autopilot. Fast replies. Surface-level updates. No investment. But when there are unspoken feelings, autopilot disappears. You both begin revealing pieces of yourselves without announcing it. Hopes, regrets, old wounds. What keeps you awake at night? Emotional vulnerability slips through the cracks in casual conversation. This is not random. It is psychological safety forming in real time. Humans do not open up where they feel nothing. We open up where we sense meaning. Attraction accelerates that safety faster than friendship ever could because there is tension, curiosity, possibility. Watch the body language. She leans in without realizing. You lower your voice as if the world should not overhear. The space between you feels smaller even when you are physically apart. She listens differently. Not to reply, not to impress, but to understand. You do the same. You remember details most people forget within seconds. Her favorite coffee order. The song she mentioned once. The way she phrased a story 3 weeks ago. Why? Because your mind stores what your heart values. That is not sentiment. That is biology and psychology working together. As Marcus Aurelius taught through Old Stoic wisdom, attention reveals intention. Where your focus goes, your inner world follows. If you remember her details effortlessly, your interest is not neutral. And if she remembers yours, hers is not neutral either. This is where many men hesitate. They enjoy the depth but avoid the truth. They tell themselves it is just conversation. No, it is alignment. It is emotional synchronization. In modern life, where everyone scrolls and multitasks, undivided attention is rare. If she gives you presence, real presence, that is value. If you both create private emotional space inside a noisy world, that is connection. Do not underestimate it. At the same time, do not lose yourself in it. This is where Stoicism win becomes practical, not theoretical. Feel the connection. Observe the signals. But maintain an iron mind. Do not rush to confess. Do not force labels. Strength is patience. Strength is clarity. The second sign is comfort in silence. Two people with no chemistry fill silence with noise. Two people with hidden feelings can sit in quiet and feel intensity instead of awkwardness. Silence becomes charged, not empty. As Epictetus reminded us, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. When both of you listen more than you speak, when silence feels intimate rather than uncomfortable, something deeper is forming. Third sign, subtle nervousness mixed with confidence. She may tease you lightly. You may hold eye contact half a second longer than necessary. There is tension, but it is playful, controlled, not chaotic. This is not about losing composure. It is about heightened awareness. Your body recognizes what your mouth refuses to say. Fourth sign, protective curiosity. She asks about your health, your schedule, your stress. Not in a polite way, in a concerned way. You do the same. You care about her mood shifts. You notice when her energy drops. Indifference does not create that. Interest does. Fifth sign, mirroring. Speech patterns align. Posture aligns. Even texting rhythm aligns. Psychology calls it subconscious mirroring. Old Stoic wisdom would call it harmony of disposition. When two people subtly reflect each other, they are emotionally attuned. Sixth sign, future references disguised as jokes. If we ever travel there, one day you'll have to show me. These are probes. Testing the idea of a shared future without the risk of direct admission. Pay attention. Casual words often carry strategic meaning. Seventh sign, emotional reaction to distance. If she pulls back slightly, you feel it immediately. If you become unavailable, she notices. There is sensitivity to absence. That sensitivity reveals attachment forming beneath the surface. Now listen carefully. Do not interpret every polite gesture as hidden love. An iron mind evaluates patterns, not isolated moments. One deep talk means nothing. Consistent depth means everything. One compliment means little. Sustained emotional investment means something. You must observe repetition. Patterns reveal truth. Stoicism win is not about suppressing emotion. It is about mastering interpretation. As Seneca wrote, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Do not create a fantasy. Read behavior. Confirm consistency. Then act with calm decisiveness. If the signs are mutual and repeated, step forward with grounded confidence. Direct, simple, composed. Not dramatic. Not desperate. Say what you feel without surrendering your self-respect. Because here is the final truth. Hidden feelings create tension, but clarity creates freedom. You are not a teenager guessing signals. You are a grown man. Lead with steadiness. Led with sense composure. Led with emotional discipline. Old Stoic wisdom teaches that courage is not loud. It is measured. It is controlled. When you cultivate an iron mind, you do not chase validation. You create clarity. And clarity transforms uncertainty into opportunity. If she responds with equal honesty, you build something real. If she does not, you walk away with dignity and tact. That is Stoicism win. That is emotional mastery in modern life. You recognize depth. You verify patterns. You move with calm strength. And you never abandon yourself in the process. 4. Jealousy, intensity, and emotional imprinting. There is a kind of connection that doesn't announce itself, doesn't make a scene, doesn't post declarations on social media, yet it lingers in the air like tension before a summer storm. And if you're a man between 35 and 70, you've felt it at least once. The look that lasts half a second too long, the silence that feels charged instead of empty, the strange awareness when she's near, And this is where the real psychology tricks begin. Not manipulation, not games, but the subtle signals hidden inside female psychology and human nature itself. First, notice the quiet jealousy. Not loud, not dramatic, just a small shift. Another person speaks to you and her eyes sharpen. Her smile tightens. Her posture straightens as if she suddenly remembered she has something to prove. She acts unbothered. Be observant. That is your first sign. Don't dismiss it as coincidence. People don't react to what doesn't matter. And you feel it too, don't you? When another man has her attention, you suddenly become very aware of him. Not because you're possessive. Be honest. It's because you care. Your chest tightens slightly. Your focus sharpens. You tell yourself it's nothing, yet inside there's a quiet question. Why is she laughing like that with him? Silent jealousy only exists when feelings already live beneath the surface. That is female psychology at work, and it's also yours. Second, the intensity between you doesn't depend on frequency. You don't have to talk every day. In fact, sometimes days pass with no contact at all, yet when you reconnect, it feels seamless. No awkwardness, no restart, just continuation, like a thread that was never cut. That is emotional imprinting. That is how to fall in love without admitting it. Real connection isn't built on constant texting. It's built on emotional weight. Be aware of that. Don't confuse noise with depth. Third, watch how she remembers details about you that others forget. The way you take your coffee, the story about your old job, the name of your childhood dog. These are not random memories. Attention is investment, and investment signals interest. When someone stores pieces of you in their mind, that is not casual. That is imprinting again. These psychology tricks are not about tricks at all. They are about noticing patterns. Fourth, notice the playful tension. The teasing that feels a little too sharp. The jokes that carry a hidden compliment. She challenges you. You challenge her back. The conversation feels alive. Be sharp. That spark doesn't happen with everyone. In female psychology, playful resistance often masks curiosity and attraction. Don't misread it. Don't overreact. Stay calm. Stay centered. That tension is not conflict. It's chemistry looking for courage. Fifth, pay attention to proximity. Does she find reasons to stand close? To brush past you? To linger a moment longer than necessary? Physical space is rarely accidental. Humans move toward what they feel drawn to. Be still enough to notice it. Don't chase it. Let it reveal itself. Sixth, observe the emotional shifts. If you pull back slightly, does she lean in? If you become distant, does she check in? This push and pull is one of the oldest psychology tricks in attraction. It's not manipulation when it's natural. It's mutual awareness. She feels your absence more than she admits. You feel hers too. That is how to fall in love quietly, through the space between words. Seventh, and perhaps most powerful, is the silence that feels full instead of empty. You sit together. No rush to fill the gap. No nervous chatter. Just presence. Energy doesn't lie. Behavior doesn't lie. And silence that feels warm instead of awkward is one of the clearest signs that something deeper is growing. Don't ignore that. Be mature enough to recognize it. Many men at this stage of life have learned to read contracts, business partners, and negotiations, yet they ignore emotional signals right in front of them. Don't make that mistake. Attraction between two adults is rarely chaotic. It is controlled, layered, subtle. You both may pretend you're just friends. You both may tell yourselves it's easier that way. But energy never lies. You can try to distance yourself. You can attempt to move on. You can distract your mind. Yet somehow the pull returns. That is emotional imprinting again. That is how to fall in love without confession. And here is the truth. Unspoken feelings create the strongest tension because they are protected by pride and fear at the same time. Be brave enough to see it. Don't force it. Don't rush it. Mature attraction grows in restraint. These psychology tricks are not about controlling someone else. They're about mastering your perception. When you understand female psychology, you stop guessing and start observing. You stop overreacting and start responding with calm confidence. If she shows subtle jealousy, if the intensity survives silence, if the teasing carries warmth, if proximity feels natural, if emotional shifts mirror yours, if details are remembered, and if silence feels safe, those are not random events. That is mutual interest wearing a disguise. Be grounded. That is your advantage. At this age, you don't need drama to confirm desire. You need awareness. And remember this: the strongest connections often begin quietly. No grand announcement, no immediate confession. Just two people circling the truth carefully. Don't be blind to it. Don't sabotage it with impatience. Let it unfold. Because when two people feel something and no one admits it, the tension is not confusion, it's potential waiting for courage. If this opened your eyes, don't just watch and move on. Be honest with yourself. Don't ignore the tension you feel. That quiet jealousy, that intensity after days of silence, that pull you can't quite explain, it's not random. It's emotional imprinting. It's connection without confession. If this message resonates, like the video, subscribe for more real insights, and drop this sentence in the comments to lock it into your mind. Energy never lies, and silence full of tension means something real. Type it, own it, and see who else understands exactly what that silence feels like. 5. Different treatment, nervousness, and absence. Another sign shows up quietly, almost politely. They treat you differently. Not in a dramatic, spotlight kind of way. Subtly, intentionally. They notice your mood shifts, your tone changes, your silence. If you seem a little off, they lean in and ask, "You okay?" Or "You seem different today." That is not small talk. Don't dismiss it. People do not monitor the emotional weather of someone who doesn't matter to them. They invest attention where they feel something. And here's the part you must not ignore. You do the same. You sense when something is wrong with them even when they say, "It's nothing." You hear it in their voice. You see it in their eyes. Attraction sharpens intuition. That is not fantasy. That is focus. When a person becomes important, your mind highlights them in bold. This is one of the quiet psychology tricks of connection, emotional prioritization. You don't sit down and decide, "I will treat her differently." You just do. She doesn't plan it either. She just does. That is how unspoken feelings begin to organize behavior without permission. Then there is protectiveness. Not ownership. Not control. Protectiveness. You don't like seeing her hurt. When someone criticizes her unfairly, you feel tension in your chest. You may defend her out loud, or maybe you stay quiet, but your body language shifts. You step closer. You pay attention. And she mirrors that energy. If someone disrespects you, she notices. She may not make a speech, but she adjusts. She becomes more present. That is emotional alignment. Be aware of it. A high-value man does not rush to rescue everyone. But when he cares, his masculine energy becomes steady, grounded, protective in a calm way. That energy is felt. It's not loud. It's contained. And contained strength is what helps attract women naturally. Don't overdo it. Don't perform it. Just recognize when it happens on its own. Now pay attention to nervousness. This one is fascinating. She may be confident with everyone else, relaxed, articulate, smooth. But around you, something shifts. She fidgets. She adjusts her posture. She laughs a little too much. She overthinks her words. That is not immaturity. That is biology. Attraction activates the nervous system. The brain becomes hyper-aware in the presence of someone it values. Heart rate changes. Micro-expressions increase. Awareness sharpens. And here's the key. If she is composed in every other room, but slightly softer, more careful, or more self-conscious around you, that is not random. You make her feel something. Be mature enough to recognize it without exploiting it. A high-value man does not prey on nervousness. He creates safety. He studies the room. That is masculine energy at its best, calm, centered, grounded. And that calm presence is what continues to attract women long after surface charm fades. You may notice the same shift in yourself. Maybe you replay conversations in your head. Maybe you choose your words more carefully. Maybe your posture straightens when she walks in. Don't pretend you're immune. Attraction humbles everyone. That is human. The difference is awareness. Be self-aware. Don't let nerves turn into overcompensation. Stay composed. And then we come to the strongest sign of all. They notice your absence. This is powerful. When you leave the room, they look around. When you grow quiet, they feel it. When your text reply is late, they register the delay. They may tease you about it. Oh, you're busy now? They may start random conversations just to reestablish connection. They create small reactions because being ignored stings more than being rejected. Rejection is clear. Silence is ambiguous. Silence creates questions. And questions mean emotional investment. Humans do not chase what they feel nothing for. We chase what makes us feel alive. If your absence creates a reaction, that is not coincidence. That is attachment forming. Psychology explains it simply. The brain releases reward chemicals when interacting with someone it's drawn to. Remove the stimulus and the system notices. That's why distance often reveals more truth than presence. Don't abuse this. Don't disappear to manipulate. But do understand the value of space. A high-value man is not constantly available. He has purpose. He has direction. His time is structured. That natural rhythm increases attraction without gains. Masculine energy is not about pressure. It's about presence and controlled absence. Different treatment. Emotional protectiveness. Subtle nervousness. The weight of your absence. These are not dramatic declarations. They are behavioral evidence. Two people can say, "We're just friends." They can laugh it off. They can keep everything polite. But behavior exposes what words conceal. If she prioritizes your mood, defends your name, softens around you, and reacts when you pull back, something is growing. And if you feel the same pull, the same awareness, the same shift in energy, be honest with yourself. Don't rush to confess. Don't force clarity before it's ready. But don't ignore reality either. Attraction matures through observation, through patience, through emotional control. Be the man who notices patterns instead of chasing fantasies. Be the man whose masculine energy is stable enough to let tension breathe. That is how you attract women without desperation. That is how a high-value man moves, aware, calm, intentional. Unspoken feelings are rarely chaotic at this stage of life. They are layered, controlled, subtle, but they are there. Watch how she treats you. Watch how she reacts to your silence. Watch how her confidence shifts around you. And most importantly, watch yourself. Because when two people treat each other differently without ever admitting why, the truth is already written in their behavior. You must simply be steady enough to read it. 6. Goodbyes, presence, and silent communication. Goodbyes reveal more truth than confessions ever could, and if you pay attention like a man grounded in Old Stoic wisdom, you will see what others miss. When two people feel something real yet refuse to name it, the goodbye is never clean, never casual, never light. It stretches, it lingers, it hesitates. There is always that pause at the door, that extra second in the car, that subtle delay before turning away, as if both of you are silently asking, "Should I say it?" But pride and uncertainty keep you restrained. They say, "See you later," yet their body stays. Their feet don't move. Their eyes hold contact half a second too long. That is not accident. That is emotion fighting for expression. Psychology calls it attachment hesitation, but you don't need a textbook to recognize energy that doesn't want to separate. The brain literally stretches the final moments of presence when it values someone. Time feels heavier. Silence feels louder. And when you walk away, you are not forgotten. You echo. They replay the conversation. They check their phone without thinking. They view your stories. They react quietly, not boldly, not dramatically, quietly. Because feelings unspoken are often feelings guarded. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What we do now echoes in eternity." Presence leaves a mark. If one day you don't show up, they notice. If you skip your usual message, they feel it. If you pull back slightly, they sense the shift immediately. That is emotional relevance. That is gravity. Do not ignore gravity. When someone remembers your scars instead of just your smile, that is not casual interest. Someone who only admires your appearance forgets you quickly. Someone who cares remembers what hurt you. They remember the story about your childhood fear. They remember the insecurity you mentioned once and tried to laugh off. They remember your stress at work. And when you open up, they listen without distraction. No scrolling, no wandering eyes, just you. Attention is currency in the modern world. Focus is rare. If they give you undivided focus, that is investment. Seneca said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." Listening deeply is kindness. Listening deeply is care. And care is never neutral. You must understand this clearly. Mutual attraction does not shout, it reveals itself in restraint. It shows in controlled distance. It shows in subtle checking. It shows in emotional awareness. Even when you try to create space, you find your way back to each other. Not dramatically, naturally, because real connection has pull. Real connection has weight. Real connection has gravity. You may tell yourself you are just friends. She may tell herself the same. But friends do not hesitate at goodbyes like that. Friends do not monitor absence like that. Friends do not memorize insecurities like that. When both of you mirror energy, when both of you test distance and then close it again, that is silent communication. That is feeling without confession. And here is where your iron mind matters. Do not panic. Do not chase validation. Observe. Stay steady. Old Stoic wisdom teaches you to master perception before action. In Stoicism, we learn that control over emotion does not mean suppression, it means clarity. If you sense this mutual gravity, do not rush to break it out of anxiety. Let it build. Let it reveal itself through consistent behavior. In modern life, where attention is fragmented and options are endless, the fact that two people consistently return to each other is powerful evidence. Consistency exposes truth. Patterns expose emotion. If she notices your absence, if you notice hers, if both of you feel the subtle shift when communication drops, that is not random. That is attachment forming quietly. But remember this, strength is calm recognition, not impulsive reaction. An iron mind sees the signal without needing immediate reassurance. You do not need to demand, "What are we?" You do not need to force confession. You observe the hesitation in her goodbye. You notice the way she re-engages after distance. You see how she softens when you speak about something personal. You feel how the energy changes when one of you pulls away. That is data. That is proof. As Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. React with steadiness. React with confidence. Mutual feelings grow stronger under composure, not pressure. If you become anxious, you break the tension that makes attraction powerful. If you remain grounded, you allow her to feel safe stepping forward. Real emotional tension is not loud. It is controlled. It is subtle. It is magnetic. And understand this clearly. When both of you keep coming back despite attempts to distance, that is gravity at work. You cannot fake gravity. You cannot manufacture it. You either feel it or you do not. If goodbyes stretch. If silence still feels connected. If absence creates awareness. If attention remains focused. If memories are detailed and personal. If vulnerability is met with presence. And if distance never truly disconnects you, then you are not imagining it. You are experiencing unspoken reciprocity. Now here is your instruction. Do not rush to label it. Do not sabotage it with fear. Stand firm in your value. Let your iron mind guide your pacing. Old Stoic wisdom reminds you that the strongest position is emotional self-control. In Stoicism, we do not chase. We attract by stability. We do not beg for clarity. We embody it. If the feeling is mutual, it will surface. Pressure reveals insecurity. Patience reveals confidence. When the time is right, the hesitation at goodbye will transform into admission. But until then, remain composed. Stay observant. Stay centered. That is how you master the moment. That is how you win without forcing the outcome. If you felt this, then you already know. Goodbyes that linger. Silence that speaks. Presence that echoes long after you leave. That is not coincidence. That is emotional gravity. Don't ignore it. Don't downplay it. Don't pretend you don't see what is clearly there. If you've experienced this kind of silent connection, Where words are missing, but feelings are undeniable, then you're not confused. You're aware. Now take ownership of that awareness. Comment this below and mean it. I recognize the connection, and I'm no longer pretending I don't. Step into clarity. 7. Creating a world of two. And then comes the final sign, the one most men overlook because it feels so natural you almost dismiss it. You begin creating a private world where only the two of you exist. Inside jokes no one else understands. Nicknames that would sound ridiculous to outsiders. Memes sent at midnight that only land because you share the same emotional frequency. That is not random. That is connection building its own language. In female psychology, shared meaning is intimacy. When a woman invests in a private world with you, she is carving out emotional space. Don't ignore that. Be aware of it. Those little rituals are not casual. They are psychological anchors. You start to imagine what it would feel like if she disappeared, and the thought stings more than you expected. That sting tells you something. You must pay attention to that reaction. At the same time, notice how she responds when you mention another woman. She gets slightly quieter. She asks subtle questions that sound innocent but are not. Oh, who's that? How do you know her? That is reassurance seeking. That is emotional territory being tested. In the language of psychology tricks, this is called indirect jealousy signaling. She won't confess feelings, but she will measure her position in your life. Don't tease it carelessly. Be calm. Be steady. Then comes the touch. A hand brushing yours. A shoulder pressing a second too long. A hug that lingers just beyond polite timing. That touch is rarely accidental. In female psychology, touch is a probe. It is a silent question. Will you pull away or lean closer? You don't pull away. She doesn't either. And in that suspended second, more is said than words could ever manage. Eye contact becomes heavier. It holds. It lingers. You both look away, then look back. That is tension. That is attraction negotiating with fear. Don't rush to fill the silence. Be comfortable in it. Silence between two people who have feelings is not empty, it is charged. The goodbye stretches longer than necessary. Neither of you wants to be the first to end it. That unfinished goodbye is emotional hesitation. It says, I want more time, without risking rejection. This is how to fall in love without admitting it. You build intimacy in layers while pretending it's nothing. Two hearts playing chess. Both calculating. Both wanting. Both afraid to lose position. That is why mutual attraction often feels like strategy. Not manipulation, strategy. Each move tests safety. Each pause measures risk. You must understand this dynamic if you want clarity. Don't confuse hesitation with lack of interest. Sometimes hesitation is interest wrapped in self-protection. The private jokes, the subtle jealousy, the lingering touch, the loaded silence, the long goodbyes, these are psychology tricks people use unconsciously when emotions grow faster than courage. And here's the truth for a man who values emotional strength. Don't overanalyze every detail, but don't be blind either. Be observant. Be grounded. If you feel it and you see these signs repeated consistently, chances are she feels it too. Mutual attraction is rarely declared in bold letters. It is whispered through behavior. It is revealed through patterns. It is confirmed through comfort and tension existing at the same time. That is how to fall in love without saying a word. That is female psychology in motion. And when you recognize these psychology tricks, you stop guessing and start understanding. You don't chase illusions. You read signals. You stay centered. Because when two people create a world of two, the truth is already there, waiting for one of you to be brave enough to name it. All right, my friend, if you felt this kind of tension, this quiet electricity between you and someone else, stop questioning your sanity. Real chemistry doesn't come from overthinking. You don't accidentally imagine that kind of eye contact. You don't fake that kind of silence that feels full instead of empty. When the energy is mutual, it's obvious, even when no one says a word. Sometimes the reason nothing has been spoken isn't confusion. It's fear. Fear of changing something that already feels special. Fear of risking a connection that feels rare. But here's the honest truth. When two people consistently show up with that same energy, That same nervous smile, that same lingering presence, it's not one sided. It's mutual. And deep down, you both already know. So here's my sincere advice to you: don't let fear make decisions for you. Be calm, be grounded, but be honest, at least with yourself. If the connection is real, it deserves courage, not silence. Even a small step forward is better than endless what ifs. Respect the bond, move with clarity, and if the moment feels right, speak. Thank you for spending these minutes with me. If this resonated with you, you already know what to do. Subscribe, like, and share it with someone who might be living in that same quiet tension. I'll see you in the next one.